Hello everyone and welcome to another Starcraft 2 video. For this one we're doing the bot Gauntlet series once again. Last we left off we were in the land of Lucid, and the victor who came out of it was Lucid ZJS, the original Lucid, and the Zerg one. So he'll be moving on to defend the belt and take on Paul, which is a veteran bot from a long time ago. Has had some matches in pro bots in the past, and likes his Nidus worms. So let's see if we'll get a macro game out of Paul or his Nidus build. We can take a quick look at Paul here, so you can see that it's written in Python. Paul is a Zerg bot written with Bernie's fork of Python SC2 and Sharpie SC2, a framework made by the creators of Sharpened Edge, Imphy, and Merfolk. There's Twitter and the repo, so it's open source, and the repo is rarely updated. Yeah, Paul is also a co-author of a Zerg bot named Eris, which we'll see later in this tournament, who is actually one of the top Zerg bots, and I think nowadays we have to call it the top Zerg bot, as it's overtaken Spiny. Yeah, so let's go ahead and see what Paul is up to. We can hop into match here as I switch over to in-game view. Come on. There we go. Okay, let's get this thing started. So spawning in the bottom right, we have the returning champ. It's Lucid ZJS. I can tell by the chat, Nidus Rush. And the challenger in the top left is Paul. I feel like I said they're both on the left. Oh well. Okay, let's get that production tab up, and pretty equal build orders us at this point in the game. Yeah, Overlord's heading across the map. This is almost identical, although this Overlord seems to be heading towards... Oh, yeah. Well, he is planning to go Nidus, so time to start getting the Overlords over there. Get an early start. Both bots throwing down their expansion, although it looks like Lucid squeezed out a few more drones first. Paul taking his gas geyser, as is Lucid, and followed by spawning pool. So both builds very, very similar. Slightly faster hatchery for Paul, and slightly more drones for Lucid. Spawning pool for Paul, spawning pool for Lucid. The true mirror matchup. Not much to say here, as we're just waiting for things to pick up a little bit. Obviously, in the chat, we did see the Nidus Rush as the strategy of choice. So we would have to assume this gas is probably did rush out a layer, although maybe the Nidus is more of a, timing attack rather than, rush it out as fast as possible. Spawning pool finishes for Lucid, and speed is on the way, and the same we have for Paul on the other side of the map. Paul has finished his natural expansion, however, though, and that allows him to build 2 queens at a time. Oh no, sorry, this is Lucid who's actually building 2 queens. So they get some extra larva production. Second queen on the way now for Paul as well. Just a little delayed. So significant worker edge for Lucid, I'd have to say. Had those extra drones in early on, and then with the extra queen, he's going to have much more lava, which he can convert into more drones. Both sides are building a lot of Zerglings, however. And there is the layer, but not out of Paul, out of Lucid, which is interesting. Nope, I take it back. Paul is also getting a layer, slightly faster. Ooh, Overlord going down to Lucid, that's unfortunate. So they'll Scoutling, keeping an eye on the frontier. Unit count shows a 20 Ling to 12 lead for Paul here, which is a little scary. But Lucid is now up to 14 of his own. $28 to 14, $30 to 14. Uh-oh. I mean, Lucid will have some time to see the Lings coming as this Ling dies. He'll hopefully be able to count up the unit's army, or the enemy's army, and realize he needs to start producing units of his own. But he's staying usually within about 10 Lings, which isn't bad when you're on the defense. You could have queens to go along with that. A couple spores going down. Good safety unit if you don't have any scouts on the way. And Roachwarn, another gas. What is the play here? +1 missile attack. So I guess a lot of Lings for now, but it's going to end up being roaches. However, there is an ice worm immediately spotted. Lings do not do a good DPS versus that high armor. However, it should be enough to get through that. Yeah, just barely. However, the Lings have found another route across the map. And good engagement here. Oh no, we're in a perfect place to fight. Uh-oh, what's going on, Lucid? Yikes, that was a bad fight. And he's down 60 Lings to 20. Oh boy, that hurts. Roaches are on the way, however. Not responding to the Nidus in his base either. I guess it doesn't matter too much. Losing the layer is going to be devastating though, as well as losing the natural, even if he can survive this somehow. It looks like +1 is going to get denied as well, which is, I don't know about ZBZ if that's an important upgrade or not. I feel like it might be. It might allow roaches to kill Lings in one less shot. I know it matters for Zealots, the +1. Anyways, some weird micro out of these Zerglings. I guess they back up between attacks. And I think that's going to be all she wrote. So we will speed this up. And say goodbye, finally, to the land of Lucid. If we go back to... Oh, when was it? About here. If Lucid just A-moved, it was actually a very good position. So he's outnumbered, but not by a lot. 24-48. 56 Zerglings versus... Okay, by a lot. 56 versus 35. But had he A-moved, Lucid would have ended up taking a position like this, which meant he would have had more Lings attacking at all times, while Paul's Lings would all be stuck mostly on the ramp. So Paul would be like taking up this position. Lucid would have a nice low conf KO over it, and this trade would have gone extremely well. I think the numbers advantage for Paul meant he would have broken through, but not with much behind it. And with roaches on the way and queens on defense, I think this would have been a Lucid victory, perhaps. Certainly well ahead in economy. Well, ahead by 3 drones in economy. I shouldn't say well ahead. But instead, Lucid backs up, and then, yeah, it looks like he even started move commanding here when he got surrounded. Unfortunate. But congratulations to Paul. Making the Nidus worm work. We'll call it the Nidus distraction. And he will move on, and Paul will be facing... So the next bot is Blunt Macro, which is a house bot. I decided to skip the house bots. They're kind of there for practice and something to test yourself against as a lower level bot. But we'll move on to Lizzie. So Lizzie is written by Just Lassie. And no information here except for it's a Python Zerg bot, Python being the most popular language as the API is nice and developed. And I'm just going to close this window. It's getting my eyes again. All right, much better. Okay, so we'll hop into the next match. So Paul versus... Uh-oh. Did I download the wrong replay? All right, I got the wrong replay here. But that's okay. It'll just take me a second to grab the next one. Oh no, I did have the right replay. Yeah, never mind. Okay, so this is loading up, and it looks like it's going to be another ZVZ. Ice and Chrome. All right, so spawning in the top right, we have the returning champ. It's the red Zerg, Paul. And the bottom left, we have another Zerg opponent. It is, ooh, with the cool emotes, the blue Zerg, Lizzie. Nice. All right, so it looks like we have a hatchery first out of Paul. And the same out of Lizzie. Again, Paul taking it on a much lower worker count. As he's at 14 of 14, where Lizzie prefers to take the get the Overlord first. The more standard way to go hatch first. So Paul goes 14 hatch, 14 gas, 14 pool, it seems. And then finally gets the Overlord. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, we do have a gas into spawning pool for Lizzie. Those minerals will never be seen again. That's a good thing to do as a human player. Whenever you send your worker to do something, immediately hit C after doing so. And then, you know, before they commit to that command, they'll go return whatever cargo they have. If they don't have any cargo, then they just do the command that you asked for anyways. So a nice little habit to build. Meanwhile, we do have speed on the way out of Paul. And pool just finishing here for Lizzie. Lizzie is approaching 100 gas herself. And there we have it, 100 gas, speed on the way. What's that actually called? Metabolic boost. Paul taking up a nice little spot by the natural. Which makes me think he's not sending the Overlord for a Nidus attack. This may not be a Nidus all-in. However, it is a little aggressive as he opened without that Overlord for so long. Just getting... Okay, this might have been what we saw last game. I wasn't paying too much attention, except for the fact that his hatchery was faster. But I guess he did it all on 14 last game as well. So just get the 100 gas for Ling speed, and then just flood the Lings. That seems to be the idea here. Get whatever amount of drones can support the amount of larvae you're producing. Zergling did make it in, however. I guess that Zergling must have gotten a good sight on how many workers is up against. I'm not sure how much Lizzie adapts to that, but Lizzie is way outnumbered right now. Unit tab is 26 Zerglings to 3. Now there is a Bailing Nest on the way, which could be a saving grace. But yeah, 12lings on the way. A little late. 3 Bailings are morphing somewhere. Over by the Queen. But if they crash into these Zerglings... Okay, one of them did, yeah. We did get another big hit over here. Okay, we need to back up a bit. I'm missing stuff here. There's a Bailing morphing right with the larva. It's hiding, pretending to be a larva. Boom. Another big hit. Lizzie's starting to lose drones now. Zerglings do pop out, but immediately going to their death. The flood is just continuous out of Paul. So many Zerglings, and with that, the natural goes down. No Bailings being morphed. As the lings pop out, they are immediately dying to the overwhelming numbers of Paul. And this could be all she wrote for Lizzie. Final Queen dying. It does fight with some Zerglings at least to get a little bit more value out of it, but yeah. That flood is just constant. Paul can maybe do with a couple more drones with this build, because it doesn't seem like he can keep up with his larva in terms of producing Zerglings. I think for the serve all in, it makes sense. You know, 2 queens, pumping injects, every larva getting turned into Zerglings, and then just get the correct drone count to support that. And with that, I think we will speed it up and call it the end of this one. Another devastating ZVZ game out of Paul, as he is able to secure a second win. And he'll be going for the hat trick. And I've already forgotten, as I'm not recording these like back to back to back like I did the previous season, which bots, if any, have I gotten 3 wins so far. Let's hop back and take a look at the scoreboard here. I feel like Too Many Stalkers had a good run, right? Yeah, I cannot remember. Oh well. Doesn't matter if anyone's done it first. Can Paul get the hat trick? 3 straight wins. He just defeated Lizzie, and now the next opponent's going to be a Protoss in the name of Nightmare, written by Armageddon. And if we take a look at Nightmare, we can see it's actually a C++ bot. Now, some are labeled C++ and are not, but I don't think that's the case for this one. I think this one actually is a C++ bot. And no other information. So, well, I guess we'll just see how it goes. It's going to be Paul versus Nightmare as I load it up. And this one's going to be on Ice and Chrome. So Paul was always known as a super cheesy bot. He liked like the 1 base Nidus play, or you know, don't even saturate 2 bases and you go Nidus or all-ins. But then he started doing some macro games and they looked pretty good. And then I didn't really hear from Paul for a while. And then he went on to work on Eris. So I don't know what Paul's... I felt like Paul probably hasn't been updated in months, but when we just looked at it, Paul had actually been updated very recently. So I'm not sure what work is being done on the spot. Maybe just some housekeeping, or maybe it's actually gained some new features. But I think we're capable of seeing both macro and G's out of the spot. Anyways, with that said, let's get this started. Spawning in the top right on a 2-game win streak and 2 quick decisive ones. It is the Red Zerg, it is Paul. Meanwhile, in the bottom right with a big lack of workers, it is the Blue Protoss, it is Nightmare. So we had a competition on the ladder on a map called Flat 48, which is a map that's very tiny and has 4 bases all right next to each other. So basically turned into a worker rush map, and that is where this spot kind of found its own, right? I think it finished 1st or 2nd in that competition. So it's all about the worker rush. Now, what you're seeing right now may look ridiculous, but I bet it would beat you as a human player. Imagine perfect probe micro where as soon as you lose the shields, you pull back, and when you have your shields up, you attack again. That can make for... Oh, man. This worker rush defense out Paul looks a little broken. However, Nightmare does not want to engage either. Man, is this going to sell how good probe rush is? And yeah, this is what's happening here. So I guess the irrelevant part is that there's 2 drones mining over there and 2 probes mining over here. But however, one that threw down the pylon and this probe is now off to the races again. Well, this is going to be a weird one. I hope that was my mute button. Otherwise, I burped right into the mic. Yeah, so 2 probes and a pylon on this side of the map. That's the 3rd probe on the way, getting chrono boosted, even though there will be no money to build a 4th probe afterwards. Paul's actually up to 250 minerals. I think Paul's going to break. That's what it looked like. Because there's no spawning pool. There's no attempt to build something over there. I would imagine if these probes attack forward, these things are not going to respond. Wait, something's happening. Oh, he got the money for a hatchery, but the probes are afraid of the one drone. It's a probe rush where the probes are afraid of everything they encounter. Okay, they're not afraid of a hatchery. So maybe this is like a structure sniping probe rush. Okay, and here comes the drones. They're back into the fight. Just barely saving the hatchery. Probes microing back. Drones. And we're back to how we were before. Will it change when all the probes get full shields? No, it doesn't. Even back on full shields, they're not attacking. What a broken game. Okay, so Paul is at 45 minerals. I'm not sure if he's going to be spending his money on a spawning pool next or just get drones as he can afford them. But he's at 50 minerals, nothing in sight. Actually, Paul has his 14 drones, right? He went 14 hatch, 14 gas, 14 pool. So I think he'll just probably stick with that build. He's got his little imaginary drone wall here that these probes are respecting for some odd reason. Looks like as the money comes in for Nightmare, he's immediately spending it on more probes. So Nightmare definitely has the ability to easily win this game, but he's not doing so. Okay, now the probes are attacking. And no response at all out of Paul. I wonder if his probe rush defense is based on time. And he's like, okay, once we hit the 4-minute mark, no one's probe rushing after 4 minutes. So just ignore all probe rush defense code at that point. That might be what's happening here. And yeah, now it's looking very good for Nightmare. Let's see if any sort of response happens when he moves up the ramp. Like, this might create another wall again. No, he's willing to fight this time. At least for now. Some of them are pulling back, but just the ones without shields. The other ones are still fighting. Yeah, so it looks overwhelming enough that Armageddon is willing to take the fight. They could see how he pulled the ones back that ran out of shields and just continued the fight with the ones that were already there. He also saw that he was mineral walking during that whole fight. His probes are able to like glide over top of each other. So he must have been clicking on mineral patches nearby to get the micro to attack and mineral walk back, attack and mineral walk back. Or maybe just the mineral walk was the retreat. So you attack, mineral walk back to this patch. When you're off cooldown, you attack again. And that would probably create a nice little sequence. So that was definitely a weird one, but entertaining in its own right. I forgot to hide the time. Oh well. Try to not make that mistake again. Of course, I'm sure I will throughout this series. I'll just do my best not to. And there we go. We have a GSL level game victory for Nightmare, who is our new champion. And we've made it through the land of Zerg now with a Protoss coming out on top. So let's take a look at the ladder yet again. This is the final seeding of last year's ladder. As we move up the ladder, we had a full 64 bots in there. Or at least by the end of the season, we had 64 bots. Some might have left mid-season. And we just had Paul losing to Nightmare. So our next opponents will be Ammo, who spot is named Biobot2. And I think, do I have this right? Is Ammo our second Zerg in Probots? I think it might be. Finished around here somewhere. Yes, Creepmind. Ammo is the author of Creepmind, which is a very highly ranked Zerg bot. But it appears he has a Terran bot as well, also written in Python. Let's see what information we have here. This was Ammo's first bot, based on bio.py, which is one of the open source bots, one of the dummy bots made by Imphy in the Sharpie framework. One of the advantages of using the Sharpie framework, not only does it make things so much easier for you, but there's a whole bunch of bots included with it, which you can use as a template to build your own bot, or you can use it as a practice partner to try your bot against, you know? Like here's a bot that goes 2 base Void Ray, and you can see if you can hold 2 base Void Ray, or here's a bot that just goes Zergling Rush, see if you can hold a Zergling Rush. So it's pretty cool. Imphy's put a lot of work into this framework, and one of the main reasons why Python is the most popular language. Oh, I see my own name here. Shout out to Ketrock for introducing me to S02E05 through his YouTube channel. Ah, yes. A couple of people said that. They actually learned of this through my Gauntlet series, so that's kind of cool. Updated for 2021 Season 2 changes to ladder backend. Yeah, so we do have new ladder maps this season, and things are changed up in a way that allows us to mimic, I probably said this before, allows us to mimic the newest balance patch, even though we're stuck on an older version of SC2. So that did require some changes to some of the bots. However, with that said, actually, was that the change that required everyone to do something? I feel like it might have been something else we did. Maybe not. Anyways, let's go ahead and hop into this one. So we do have Nightmare, who defeated Paul in that interesting game last time, going up against Biobot 2. So can Biobot 2 defeat the wall of probes? Still trying to wrap my head around what the probes are up to. I feel like that was by design. It was probably something that makes a lot of sense when you're in worker versus worker fights, which was what Nightmare was built for. But I can't quite wrap my head around it. All right, so spawning in the top right, we have the Challenger. It is the Red Terran. It is Biobot 2. Meanwhile, in the bottom left, with the exact same lack of probes, it is the Blue Protoss. It is Nightmare. I do like how he's, even though he's only got 2 probes left, he stacks up on the mineral patches closest to the Nexus. I think he's even doing that speed mining technique. Yeah, you can see he's like click, 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 clicked. So he's not getting any deceleration. So he's got this huge income buff with only 2 workers. Probes are arriving now, and yes, they're afraid of the 1 scout SCV. Run away! I do like how they stack up like that, though. That's pretty cool. That should make for some really nice micro. And that's buying a lot of time for Biobot, actually. Able to throw down his second barracks. Yeah. Man, this nightmare would be a nightmare to deal with in terms of its probe rush, the ability for it to save probes when they run out of shields and then bring them back into the fight, and the ability to stay stacked so like you don't have to worry about surface area. They'll just always be able to attack no matter how many probes you have in a position. That's really scary. But the logic to how it's fighting does not make a lot of sense to me. I get the sense it's not a bug. I get the sense that there's a purpose to it. That just doesn't work against a bot who's not fighting with its workers. Because we saw two bots not fight back. Like, if Biobot pulled all of its workers and chased Nightmare, then it would be perfectly fine, this micro he was doing, because both bots would have similar lack of income. And in fact, Nightmare would probably have more income as he would have two workers at home mining. So maybe it's like Nightmare depends on the opponent building, pulling all of its workers to defend with. Of course, with that said, he is against a full wall off, a Reaper, a bunker. This game is as over can be. Especially as the attack's not even happening. I mean, these probes could cut through the bunker, maybe get lucky and surround the Reaper. Any sort of worker defense from out of Biobot, though, would be more than enough to hold this off. And that's best case scenario. And in fact, there's no way you're getting through this bunker at this point, now with 3 Marines inside. So I think what I will do is speed it up. I'm really like trying to envision a scenario where this works out for Nightmare, but there is no follow-up. He only built a pylon so you can make more drones to send out, or more probes to send out, so I think this is more or less over. It's just a matter of when Biobot attacks. Probes are still funneling in. There's 4 probes left, a 5th arriving. SCV Scout is still scouting around on the other side of the map. Siege tank goes out just about to here. I mean, I guess we can get a good sense for Biobot here, though. It appears that he's able to build tanks in Bio. He's got a Tech Lab getting, well, no Tech Lab upgrades as of yet, but able to expand. And maybe even adapt. I feel like this might have been a response to what he was facing. Or maybe he just always walls off with a bunker. But I feel like he might have identified he was facing some category of cheese and decided to wall off and build a bunker because of that, which is pretty advanced to be able to not just go through like a set series of things that your bot's supposed to do, but actually to see what your opponent's doing and adapt to it. Interesting idle worker here. Not sure what happened to that guy. Maybe he's trying to build something like in here and he can't do it. Might have been like a poorly placed, poor decision on where to put something. Like he's trying to build a missile turret here, or maybe even trying to build another command center on top of this command center. Nice little composition. We do have a stim on the way, medevacs, Marine Marauder, 3rd base going down, siege tanks. Adding on another barracks. So I'm going to assume the Biobot moves out, like his trigger would probably be a certain supply count. So like, I hit 150 supply, okay, let's go attack. Maybe something like that. Because, you know, this bot has wins, so it's capable of attacking. So the question we have to ask is why would it attack? Could be based on an upgrade as well. You can see we have 1-1 beginning. Maybe he moves out when 1-1 completes, make it a timing attack. Another one of those interesting SCVs got a little stuck. This guy's still stuck down here. Probes are still dying one at a time. SCV is still looking, is like, hey, why don't you have an expansion yet? It's almost as if this game is different. More Tech Lab starports coming down, as well as Tech Lab barracks, as well as reactor barracks. Pushing out to set up a new base. I hope he didn't block that with his own siege tank, but it did on siege. And I think the push is coming now. He just passed 150 supplies, so I think I might have called it perfectly. And there it goes. GG. Not an interesting game per se, but it was interesting to see what Biobot has in store for its next opponent. We can see what it's capable of. Right, so nice game out of Biobot there. We'll do one more match. So we do have Biobot, and then we do have some house bots here. These are bots, again, built by Imphy that just allow you to have something to practice against. I assume this is Void Rays, this is a Lurker bot, this is a Disruptor bot, I guess? Sharp Spheres, maybe, yeah. And then the next bot is going to be Queenbot. So this is built by Rasper, the author of one of the best Zerg bots and the co-author of these best Zerg bot. So he authored Spiny, which is the best Zerg bot, and then in rewriting Spiny, he created Eris, and then Paul has helped out with that as well. So it's a co-author, and that rewrite of Spiny, I think at this point, has surpassed Spiny itself. Yeah, so Queenbot will be the next match. Let me get this loaded. Biobot 2 versus Queenbot, and it'll be on Lightshade. Oh, and as we're waiting, let us actually take a look what we got in Queenbot here. So Queenbot is actually not so much a bot built for, you know, competing on the ladder, but a bot built as a utility that other people can use. It's kind of like a sample bot using a library that does all the queen stuff for you, the injects, the creep tumors, the transfuses. And then as a sample bot, you just put on the ladder, and obviously you made it just slightly better than that, so the bot is able to, you know, throw down stack defense, I think. It even does some weird Nidus play. But mainly it's just building tons and tons of queens, which is surprisingly strong when you got a bot that can transfuse well. Yeah, so let's see what information we have here. The bot showcase is a small queen library created for the use of Python SC2 to help with queen management. Feel free to download and use this bot as a starting point. Watch Hero Queenbot featured on popular Russian SC2 channel Alex007. Alex007 is like basically the Husky. Like, imagine if Husky Starcraft never quit Starcraft and was Russian. That's basically what we got here. He does these extremely popular videos. He gets hundreds of thousands of views, and he's been doing it for years. Yeah, so I do have the game loaded. Make sure I hide the timer. There we go. And then I will bring it up on screen here. And we're good to go. So spawning in the top left position, it is the challenger. It is Queenbot. Meanwhile, in the bottom right, we have the blue Terran. It is Biobot 2. Did not have too much difficulty with the Probe Rush bot due to the odd mechanic of the Probe Rush. Had the probes actually just charged in and put maximum damage in while using that shield regen, I think it might have been able to walk over Biobot 2, but such as the case, it was afraid of the Scout SCV and charged all the way back home. Okay, so Queenbot will be going for a hatch first. I think Queenbot even eventually gets upgrades for the queens. I actually thought Queenbot might have become a real threat on the ladder if it had 3-3 upgrades. Because sometimes it would get like in a really good spot in the game, but then 0-0 queens don't really deal well with compositions later on. I'm like, well, I wonder if 3-3 queens would deal better with some of these compositions. A couple barracks out of Biobot 2, as well as a gas. One depot at the ramp. Scouting around, not seeing a spawning pool, so this will be a good test for Biobot 2 to see if he does that wall off with a bunker as a reaction, or if he sees a bot like this who's clearly not doing anything aggressive. You know, pretty late spawning pool, expansion's down. Probably no need to get that bunker and you can expand. I talk about this as if it's like a simple task, but my bot's not able to react to things. So, I mean, it can react to like units, but it doesn't like change its build based on what it's scouting. Oh, time for another stuck SCV. Not sure what causes that, but something certainly does it. And yeah, there you go. Low ground expansion, no bunker. So that was a reaction to getting cheese. That's pretty cool. Spine crawler out of Queenbot. And yeah, we might be in for a longer game. Perhaps Biobot will reach a 150 supply, push out, and win. Or maybe this Queenbot is going to just take over the entire map and slowly squeeze Biobot to death. I think it'll come down to that first push. If Queenbot can actually hold off, you know, like stim and tanks, which I assume Queens can't, but if he can, then he'll probably have the whole map owned by that point and non-stop Queens on the way. Third hatch is down. First creep tumor and second creep tumor. So the creep spread has begun. Decision making for bots is an extremely difficult thing to code, but mechanics is not. And one of the best things bots can do with perfect mechanics is creep spread. Like basically, as soon as this creep tumor becomes available to spread, boom, there it goes. Calculating the position of where to spread it to is a little bit of a decision, but the ability to spread it instantly as soon as it's available will make the creep spread of bots potentially much better than we'd even see on the pro scene. I guess the other decision is, should you spread the creep, right? Have you seen units around here recently? Because if you have, maybe you shouldn't be putting a creep tumor there. I guess the other downside of instantly spreading the creep too is that the spread from the original tumor hasn't happened yet. But it's still better to spread it instantly than it is to wait until the creep gets maxed out and then you put it down. Scan going down, not seeing much. Nothing to be scared of here, you know. No lair. Oh, there is a lair? No, that's a hatchery. No lair. First Evo chamber coming down after the scan. Creep is getting spread pretty well. Meanwhile, it looks like we're going to have a third base at a Biobot, unless this is a push. Maybe, since there's nothing to be scared of, he's like, oh, maybe I should just go kill this guy. And that could be happening, and this could be deadly. How many queens are we actually up to at this point? 11 queens. Should have a good amount of transfuse. I mean, we've only put down maybe like 8 creep tumors or so. Tank is getting sieged up in range. That could be trouble. Second tank arrives. There is no stim at the moment, but there is combat shield. Drones are actually being pulled to help with the fight. But the tanks are smart enough not to shoot the drones. Its tanks are focusing on the queens. However, man, imagine they never nerfed transfuse, where stacking transfuse is actually really strong. Yeah, that was a victory by Queenbot. Queenbot left a tank behind, which is a little odd. Four queens being built at a time. We do have missile attacks 1 being researched. Meanwhile, Stim is about halfway done at this point. Third base is on the way for Biobot. Creep is covering about 40% of the map at this point. And this random siege tank is still there. It's being selected. Meanwhile, Biobot, Vikings. 2 medevacs and Vikings. Yeah, so this is looking quite strong. Especially if 1-1 completes. But 1-1 hasn't started yet, so actually the upgrade lead is going to be for the queens. They'll have +1, which is, I think, pretty useful. Maybe the armor would actually be better against Zergling, against Marines. But the +1 attack is useful versus everything. More bases going down. Is there any spines on the map? Just the one at the moment. Go to units. No, structures. T? Yeah, just the one spine. A random proxy hatch in the middle of the map. We do have tank, which will be going down. Good amount of queens here. Creep is right on the front door now of Biobot here. Run, queen, run! Run away! And the train of queens heads back home. Looks like Queenbot stopped at 65 workers. That's good, I guess. Because they're all on minerals, right? So that's more than typical 65, because you don't have to have any on gas. Although I guess he does have some on gas. Probably more than you need when you're just doing 2 Evo chambers worth of upgrades. But I guess you have to go up to Hive as well. Nidus Worm on the way. That's a new addition to this build. Or to this bot. And Layer. So what did I say? 150 supply? Yeah, so Biobot probably moves at a 150 supply. It's looking good for Queenbot. The first couple engagements look nice. The map is purple. But with 1-1, if 1-1 completes and we got stimmed bio with siege tanks, you could possibly kill a maxed out army of queens with that. Looks like he's moving to take out a base. However, there is a Nidus Worm going up in his main. Some Marines have arrived, but that's not going to work against his queens. Now with that transfuse in play. Queens also pushing up the front. They're getting less success, but now with this many queens here, they're getting more success. Where are those siege tanks? Siege tanks into the main, dealing with the Nidus Worm. So I feel it nice will get shut down, but there's actually even a creep tumor that got placed here, which is nice. Also, the +1 armor is getting knocked down. Actually, multiple creep tumors got put down. However, the fight at the natural is going well in Queen's way, and planetaries are terrible versus Queens. There's just no splash damage to be had. And planetary actually has very low single target DPS. It's about the equivalent of a single Marauder, which really isn't that much. What they excel in is their splash. They can kill packs of Zerglings and Marines and stuff, but not against these big chunky Queens. Creep tumors are getting spread in the main base of Biobot. Meanwhile, a second Nidus Worm is going up. Planetary Fortress about to go down. There it goes. We do have a couple tanks on the high ground with some Marauders to cover. Now Marauders, half their damage is versus armored, and Queens are not armored units. Queenbot taunting. That's over 85% of the map covered in creep. How did you let that happen? Including part of your own main base. The Queens are pretty low in transfuse. But with that said, what is here to stop the Queens anymore? We're on 2 ace economy out of Biobot. A lot of these SCVs are kind of funneling to their death, trying to repair the remaining structures, and the Queens are in on the front door now. Just a handful of very weak Marauders remaining, who actually are kiting quite well versus these Queens off creep. They're not able to turn around and shoot back with the +1 range that Marauders have on them. But again, like I said, half the damage from Marauders is versus armored, which they don't get that advantage of, and there's more than enough transfuse going on here. Creep is now behind the main base of Biobot. Oh my goodness. What's missing? The 3rd base and the 4th base are both covered in creep. This is almost a purely purple map. And new creep tumor is coming down as well to keep that spread going. I love it. Medivacs. The Marauders could have used your help, you know. The creep has now spread all the way to the natural. Another Nidus Worm came down somewhere. Oh, no, just rebuilt the existing one. I guess he lost it to those Marauders. Oh no, probably to the siege tank. Now the Queens are getting distracted by the SCVs and the structures, but that Marauder did go down. And now the Queens are slowly pushing in on the siege tank. Once they can see the tank, they're prioritizing the tank over the depots and stuff. So that tank is short for life. Here it goes, and another creep tumor. The whole main base is almost covered in creep. The natural base has 1 creep tumor. The gap between the 3rd and the natural is covered. This hatchery is about to complete, which will create more creep. More creep tumors being put down. This is the last semblance of normal ground on the entire map. Except for the main base of Queenbot being the only the only place not covered in goop. Queens are on 2-2 upgrades. 3-3 looks is kind of on the way. A little broken though. You put both of them into the same Evo chamber. But yeah. That was beautiful. This tumor was just finishing, which means this was about to get filled in. That is hilarious. This map, oh my. Looks like he might have, well, maybe not. No, it looks like he's far enough not to block the hatch location. I think a hatch fits here. No. Actually, it's the Spore Crawler blocking the hatch location. I think it's supposed to be like that. Interesting. The medevac survived, though. Marauders aren't happy about that, but the Marauders are dead, so who cares? But congratulations to Queenbot winning by purple. And moving on up the ladder. So next bot will be in the next video. However, it will be a bot that's near and dear to my heart. Actually, the first bot on the ladder to go Mass Raven was not Ketrock, but Bomb Shaker, who will be the next opponent for Queenbot. So Bomb Shaker goes Mass Raven and puts his extra minerals into Hellions. So it's kind of like this Hellion auto turret push. And we'll have to see how that goes versus Queens. It'll be kind of be like a battle of attrition almost, right? Turning energy into auto turrets and units that can heal themselves forever. That could be somewhat interesting. Yeah, but GG to Queenbots. She'll be moving on. Next will be Bomb Shaker, a Protoss, Forky Dogs, Skividbot P. Some of these are somewhat new bots. Like these are both new in this season. So, oh, there's a couple Forky Dogs here. Interesting. Let's see how this goes. And yeah, we're working our way up the ladder. I mean, we're up to now. Like we got through quite a few games thanks to Paul making quick games and skipping the house bots. I think we made it up to 39. Next one will be 37. 37 of 64. So we're almost halfway through. Once again, as these videos are coming out, there's also a Pro Bots tournament going on right now for the top 16 bots. So link to that is in the description. You guys can check that out on ES Champ channel. They stream it weekly on YouTube every Thursday evening NA time. Every Thursday at 7:30. Man, I hope I got that right. You know what? Let's bring it up now. Take a look. A little free promotion here. So if we're going to ES Champ's channel. Oh, they haven't made a thing to click on yet. But it was 3 days ago. That's wrong. It was not 3 days ago. Yeah, so Thursdays at 7:30. Looks like they haven't put up a video yet. Usually there's already a video up a week in advance that you can click on and set a reminder. It's not really a video. It's like a marker for the next stream. And then once the stream is done, the VOD is immediately available, which is the nice thing about streaming on YouTube and putting videos on YouTube. They can seamlessly transfer one into the other. Yeah. So I kind of lost my train of thought. Yeah, so this is going on as we speak. So we're just started the season. And I'll probably be finishing, I guess, around the time I finish as well. No, I'll probably finish first. I'm just about halfway through. It's a double elimination bracket with 16 bots, and they do about 4 games per week, or 4 series per week. So that's like maybe 8 weeks. And then in the finale, usually if they can, they get a guest, like a pro player, to play against the bots, and we do some human versus bot matches as well. So it's kind of a fun time in the finals. It's not like an all day long stream. And maybe even live. They used to do them live. And then this little known thing you probably never heard of called COVID-19 happened. And now, I mean, they do it in Toronto. And the province that Toronto's in is down to under 100 new infections per day. And they used to be, like, just a month ago, up around 500 a day. So the fact that the vaccines are really starting to kick in now. I think Ontario is like 90% of people have had 1 dose and about 50% have had 2 doses. It's looking pretty good. Hopefully the vaccines is enough and these new variants aren't going to make it worse. But yeah, if that's the case, maybe there's a small chance of this season having a live finale. If not, maybe the next season. And there's about 3 or 4 seasons of Probots each year. Takes about 2 months to run, usually about 2 months between each series. So that's like, yeah, maybe about three Probots each season, each year. So be nice to have a live finale in the summer, though. That'd probably be pretty cool. Anyways, I digress. I'm going to call it the end of the video here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and I'm out of here. Goodbye.